The emergency vote had failed. David Reed watched as the holographic display showed the final count in red numbers that seemed to mock everything he believed in. 47 species voted against helping the Keon people. Only one species voted yes. Humanity stood alone, as usual. Around the circular chamber, delegates from hundreds of worlds whispered and gestured. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked relieved. The harvesters were too powerful, too dangerous. Better to sacrifice one small agricultural species than risk a wider war. That was the practical choice. That was the smart choice. David remained in his seat while others filed out. His fingers drummed against the armrest, a habit he had when calculating his next move. He was 53 years old, silver hair cut short, and his face carried the kind of lines that came from spending decades in negotiations. People often mistook his calm demeanor for weakness. They learned otherwise eventually. High Chancellor Vorn approached, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. The reptilian leader smiled, showing too many teeth. Ambassador Reed, surely you understand our position. The Keon situation is regrettable, but interference would destabilize the entire sector. Destabilize, David repeated, his voice flat. Interesting word for watching genocide. Vorn's smile faded. You humans are too emotional. This is why your species will never truly lead in galactic affairs. You let sentiment cloud judgment. David stood slowly. He was shorter than Vorn by half a meter, but something in his posture made the Chancellor step back. Tell me, Chancellor, do you remember how humanity joined this council? Your species achieved faster than light travel and petitioned for membership. Standard procedure. Not quite. David walked toward the chamber's viewing window. Beyond the transparent barrier, stars stretched into infinity. Our first colony ship, Hope's Journey, left Earth 147 years ago. Generation ship, meant to reach Proxima Centauri in 80 years. Clever engineering, but we were still learning, still making mistakes. Vorn looked impatient. Ancient history is not relevant to 15 years into the journey, their life support failed. David's reflection stared back at him from the window. Cascade malfunction. 8,000 people drifting in a metal tomb. Oxygen running out. No way to call for help because we hadn't invented quantum communication yet. The Chancellor's posture shifted slightly. Perhaps he sensed where this was going. A Keon merchant ship found them, David continued. Pure chance. The captain's name was Mira. She was hauling agricultural supplies to a mining outpost running behind schedule, already losing money on the trip. Her crew advised her to report the derelict ship and move on. Standard procedure, as you like to say. David turned to face Vorn directly. But Mira didn't follow procedure. She used her ship's tractor beam to tow Hope's Journey for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of burning fuel she couldn't afford to replace. She shared her medical supplies, her food reserves, her water. She bankrupted herself, saving people she had never met and would probably never see again. A noble story, Vorn said carefully, but that was nearly a century and a half ago. Surely, she asked for nothing in return. David's voice cut through the Chancellor's words like a blade. When human rescue ships finally arrived, Mira refused payment. She said, "Life is the greatest treasure. I cannot put a price on it." Then she went back to her trade routes, back to rebuilding her business, and she never spoke of it again. Vorn shifted his weight. Ambassador, I fail to see how this ancient tale affects current policy regarding the harvester conflict. David reached into his jacket and pulled out a small wooden carving. It was worn smooth from handling, simple in design, a bird with outstretched wings. Mira gave this to the captain of Hope's Journey, said it was a Keon symbol of safe travels. We've kept it in our diplomatic archives ever since. He held it up to the light. 8,000 people survived because of her. Those people had children. Those children had children. My grandmother was on that ship, Chancellor. She was 6 years old, dying of oxygen deprivation when Mira found them. Today there are over 200,000 humans alive because one Keon captain chose kindness over profit. The chamber had grown quiet. Other delegates who had been leaving stopped to listen. Humanity keeps records, David said.
Very detailed records.
We remember everyone who helped us when we were weak and struggling. We remember every act of kindness, every moment of mercy, every hand extended in friendship. We write them down. We teach them to our children. We never, ever forget. He placed the carving back in his jacket. The Keon are dying. Their cities are burning. Mira is still alive, Chancellor. She's 93 years old by human reckoning. She'll probably die watching her homeworld destroyed while this council debates trade agreements and sector stability. Vorn's voice took on a warning tone. You cannot be suggesting military action without council approval. That would violate— We remember our friends, David interrupted. His eyes locked onto Vorn's. And we pay our debts. All of them. He walked toward the exit. Behind him, delegates erupted in confused chatter. Vorn called after him, demanding clarification, threatening sanctions. David ignored it all. In the corridor outside, he activated his secure communication device. The holographic image of Admiral Kate Patterson appeared, her expression expectant. Ambassador? She asked. David's voice was steady, certain. The council has made its choice. Now we make ours. Execute Operation Gratitude. Kate nodded once. Fleet is ready, sir. We've been ready for weeks. I know. David allowed himself a small smile. Humanity has a long memory, Admiral. Time to remind the galaxy what that means. The communication ended. David continued walking through the station's corridors, passing aliens from dozens of worlds. Some stared, some whispered. Word would spread quickly about what humanity planned to do. Let it spread, David thought. Let them all know. When you save a human life, we remember forever. We honor it. We treasure it. And when the time comes, we repay it no matter the cost. Somewhere across the stars, harvester ships bombarded Quilon cities. Somewhere in one of those cities, an old merchant captain named Mira probably sat wondering if anyone in the galaxy still cared about kindness. She would have her answer soon enough. Admiral Kate Patterson floated in zero gravity near the observation deck, watching 73 warships hold formation in the darkness between stars. Each vessel bore a name that meant something: loyalty, honor, mercy, justice, courage. These were not random words painted on hulls. They were promises written in titanium and steel. Her flagship, Remembrance, drifted at the center of the formation. 200 meters long, bristling with weapons that humanity had spent decades developing in secret. The galaxy thought humans were merchants and diplomats, peaceful traders who smiled and negotiated. They were not entirely wrong, but they were not entirely right either. Admiral, all ships report ready status. The voice belonged to Captain Luis Ramos, a man whose great-grandfather had been born aboard Hope's journey. He commanded Remembrance with the kind of quiet competence that Kate valued above all else. Excellent. Kate pulled herself to the command console and activated the fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Patterson to all ships. In approximately 14 minutes, we will begin jump sequence to Keon space. You all know why we're here. You all know what we're about to do. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Words mattered. They always mattered before battle. 6 months ago, Command asked me to prepare contingency plans for a Keon defense operation. They knew the Council would refuse to act. They knew we would act anyway. So we planned. We gathered intelligence. We positioned supply ships. We recruited volunteers. She looked around at her crew. Every face showed determination. Every person on these ships volunteered. Every single one. We had 4 times as many volunteers as positions available. Through the viewport, the distant stars seemed to watch and wait. The galaxy thinks we're soft because we value mercy. They think we're weak because we remember kindness. They're about to learn they've confused civilization with weakness. Humanity is civilized. We believe in laws, in order, in giving people chances to do the right thing. But we are not weak. We have never been weak. Kate activated a secondary display. An old photograph appeared, grainy and ancient by modern standards. It showed a Quilon captain standing beside human crew members, all of them smiling. Mira looked young in that picture, her fur still bright, her eyes full of hope. This image is 147 years old. The Quilon captain saved 8,000 humans when she had every practical reason to leave them to die.
She gained nothing.
She lost money, time, reputation among her own people for being foolish. But she did it anyway because it was right. Kate's voice hardened. Now her people are dying. The harvesters think no one will stop them. The Council has confirmed they will not interfere. So it falls to us. Captain Ramos stood at attention. What are our rules of engagement, Admiral? We warn them once. If they withdraw, we let them go. If they attack, we defend ourselves and the Quilon with appropriate force. We do not target civilian vessels. We do not fire on retreating ships unless they're running to regroup for another attack. We are not conquerors. We are not murderers. We are protectors. Dr. Amy Foster, the chief medical officer, spoke up from her station. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Always, Doctor. My grandmother was 3 years old on Hope's journey when the life support failed. She told me stories about the Keon crew sharing their food, teaching human children their songs to keep them calm, working around the clock to stabilize our ship's systems. Amy's voice wavered slightly. She made me promise something. Made me swear on her deathbed that if I ever had a chance to repay that debt, I would take it no matter the cost. Kate nodded. We all carry similar stories, Doctor. That's why we're here. The tactical officer called out. Admiral, receiving updated intelligence from our scout network. Harvester fleet composition is confirmed. 43 capital ships, over 200 support vessels. They've begun orbital bombardment of Keon's northern continent. The numbers were not encouraging. Humanity's 73 ships would be outnumbered significantly. But numbers alone did not determine victory. History had taught humanity that lesson repeatedly. Tactical, load the coordination protocols. Every ship needs to function as part of a single organism, not as individual units. The harvesters rely on numerical superiority and heavy firepower. We'll rely on precision and unity. Aye, Admiral. Protocols loaded. Kate pulled herself to her private quarters for a moment, needing 60 seconds of silence before battle. She opened a small case on her desk. Inside was the wooden carving, the bird with outstretched wings. Command had given it to her before this deployment. Bring it back safe, they had told her. It belongs in a museum, not a war zone. She had smiled and promised to try. But secretly, she knew the carving belonged here on this ship heading into this fight. Symbols mattered. They reminded people what they fought for. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Luis Ramos entered, his expression serious. Admiral, I want you to know something. If things go wrong out there, if we don't all make it back, I need you to understand that every person on this fleet considers it an honor to be here. This isn't a suicide mission. We plan to win, but if we don't, we're dying for something that matters. Kate stood and extended her hand. Luis shook it firmly. We'll bring them home, Captain. As many as we can. I know, Admiral. I know. The jump alarm began its countdown sequence. Throughout the fleet, thousands of humans prepared for what came next. Some prayed, some wrote final messages to loved ones, some simply sat quietly thinking about Keon children who were dying while the galaxy watched and did nothing. Kate returned to the command deck and strapped into her chair. The carving sat in a protected alcove beside her station, the wooden bird seeming to spread its wings wider. All ships, this is remembrance. Jump drives charged. Navigation locked. Weapons ready. Medical teams prepared. She took a deep breath. For Mira, for the Keon, for every species in this galaxy that ever showed humanity kindness when we needed it most. All ships jump. The stars stretched into lines of light. 73 human warships disappeared from the staging area, racing across space toward a battle that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. In her quarters, secured carefully, the wooden carving survived the jump intact. The bird's wings pointed forward, toward whatever future awaited them in Keon space, toward justice, toward vengeance, toward the moment when humanity would prove that mercy and strength were not opposites, but two sides of the same coin. The fleet emerged from jump space 14 minutes later, arriving in a system on fire, ready to remind the harvesters that some debts must be paid in blood. Commander Talth watched the tactical display with satisfaction. 17 Keon cities had fallen in the past 6 hours. His fleet controlled the orbital space completely. Ground forces would begin landing operations within the day. Another species would join the long list of civilizations absorbed into the Harvester Collective. Another victory for his service record. Commander detecting multiple jump signatures. His sensor officer sounded uncertain. 73 vessels emerging at the system's edge. Talth leaned forward in his command throne. Identification? Analyzing now. Computer shows human registry. Military configuration. The bridge crew erupted in laughter. Talth felt amusement ripple through his body. Humans. The galaxy's merchants and negotiators. They had arrived to die bravely and achieve nothing. How admirably foolish. Open a channel to the human fleet. Talth adjusted his ceremonial armor, wanting to look proper when delivering his warning. Let them see what they face before they retreat. The communication screen activated. A human female appeared, older, with hair turning gray and eyes that showed no fear. She wore a simple uniform with minimal decoration. This is Admiral Kate Patterson of the Human Defense Fleet, commanding vessel Remembrance. You are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions against the Quilon people and withdraw from this system immediately. Talth's laughter boomed across the bridge. His crew joined in. Admiral Patterson, I am Commander Talth of the Harvester Collective. You command 73 light warships. I command 43 capital ships and 200 support vessels. Your bravery is noted. Your stupidity is also noted. Withdraw now or be destroyed. The human admiral's expression did not change. You have been warned. What happens next is your choice. The transmission ended. Talth gestured dismissively. Tactical, detach 3 destroyer groups. That should be sufficient to send the humans running. Resume bombardment of the Quilon cities. This interruption changes nothing. 15 Harvester destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward the human fleet. Talth expected to see the humans scatter or retreat. Instead, they advanced in a tight formation that seemed almost ceremonial in its precision. The first weapons exchange lasted 7 seconds. When it ended, 4 Harvester destroyers drifted as disabled hulls. Not destroyed, disabled. Their engines dead, their weapons offline, their crews alive but helpless. Talth sat upright. What just happened? The humans used focused electromagnetic pulse weapons combined with kinetic penetrators. They targeted specific systems rather than attempting to destroy the ships entirely. Extremely precise firing solutions. His tactical officer's voice carried a note of respect that Talth did not appreciate. Send all destroyers. Crush them. The Harvester fleet's destroyer contingent, 60 vessels strong, moved to engage. The human ships responded by splitting into groups of 5. Each group moving with synchronized precision that seemed impossible for independent vessels. They fought like a single organism with multiple bodies. Talth watched as his destroyers attempted to surround and overwhelm the smaller human groups. But the humans refused to fight the way he expected. When his ships focused fire on one human vessel, the other 4 would position themselves to intercept, taking damage meant for their companion. They protected each other with a coordination that suggested shared consciousness. Commander, we've disabled 12 human ships, but we've lost 41 destroyers. Talth slammed his fist against the armrest. Deploy the capital ships. All of them. I want those humans obliterated. The massive Harvester dreadnoughts moved into formation, their weapons capable of cracking planets. Surely this would end the human resistance. But as the capital ships advanced, something changed in the human tactics. The human fleet stopped attacking Harvester military vessels. Instead, they repositioned between the Harvester fleet and the Quilon homeworld. Every single human ship placed itself as a shield, protecting the planet below. They're not even firing at us anymore, the tactical officer reported, confusion evident. They're just blocking our firing solutions on the surface targets. Talth saw one Harvester dreadnought fire its main cannon at a Quilon city. A human ship, one called Loyalty, moved directly into the weapon's path. The blast tore through the human vessel's armor, ripping it apart. But the city below remained intact. Another dreadnought fired. Another human ship intercepted. This one was named Honor. It survived the hit but drifted powerless, venting atmosphere. What are they doing? Talth demanded. Why are they sacrificing themselves for these worthless creatures? His first officer, who had served for 3 decades, spoke quietly. Commander, I think they actually care about the Quilon. This is not political maneuvering. They are willing to die for these people. Captain Luis Ramos kept his hand steady on the helm controls even as the proximity alarms screamed. Remembrance was surrounded by 6 Harvester capital ships, all firing. The shields held but barely. Captain, we have a refugee transport trying to escape the northern continent. 500 Quilon civilians aboard. Harvester dreadnought is targeting them. The tactical officer's voice was urgent. Luis calculated angles and velocities in his head. The transport would not survive a direct hit from a dreadnought. Remembrance could intercept, but the ship would take catastrophic damage. Maybe fatal. He thought about his great-grandfather born on Hope's journey, saved by a Quilon captain who asked for nothing in return. The choice was simple. All power to forward shields. Put us between that transport and the dreadnought. Now. Remembrance surged forward, its engines burning beyond safe limits. The massive human ship positioned itself directly in the dreadnought's firing line. The Harvester weapon discharged, a beam of concentrated energy that could melt mountains. The beam struck Remembrance's forward shields. Energy cascaded across the barrier, seeking weakness. The shield generators overloaded, exploding throughout the ship. Secondary explosions rippled through 3 decks. Luis felt the ship dying around him, but the transport ship escaped. 500 Keon civilians would live. Luis activated the emergency command transfer. "This is Captain Ramos. I'm transferring command to Commander Williams. Remembrance is critically damaged, but weapons remain operational. Continue the mission." He looked at his crew, saw their determination, their acceptance. "It's been an honor serving with you all." The ship shuddered as another blast hit. More systems failed, but the weapons still functioned, and Luis intended to use them until the very end. Talth watched another of his dreadnoughts take heavy damage from a dying human ship. The vessel, named Remembrance, should have been destroyed. Instead, it fought on, targeting his ship's critical systems with impossible accuracy even as it fell apart. For the first time in his military career, Commander Talth felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. These humans were not fighting for territory. They were not fighting for resources or political advantage. They were fighting for something his species had forgotten existed. They were fighting for principle, for loyalty, for a debt paid 147 years ago by a merchant captain who gained nothing from her kindness. His fleet was breaking. His commanders were requesting permission to withdraw, and Talth finally understood what it meant to face an enemy who valued honor more than survival. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 8 hours after the Battle of Keon ended. Representatives from 400 species gathered in the main chamber, their holographic projections creating a kaleidoscope of alien forms around the circular room. The air hummed with translated conversations, accusations, and barely contained shock. High Chancellor Vorn activated his speaking platform. His scales had lost some of their shine, and his posture showed the weight of political pressure. "This council convenes to address humanity's unauthorized military action in Quilon space. Ambassador Reed, you will explain why your species violated galactic law by deploying military forces without council approval." David Reed stood slowly. He had not slept since the battle, spending every hour coordinating humanitarian aid to the Keon homeworld. His uniform was wrinkled, his eyes tired, but his voice remained steady. "High Chancellor, we violated no law. The Council Charter explicitly permits member species to defend themselves and their allies from unprovoked aggression. The Quilon asked for help. We provided it. The Quilon are not formally allied with humanity through treaty," Vorn countered. "You had no legal obligation to intervene." "Legal obligation?" David repeated the word slowly. "Chancellor, if a child is drowning and you have the ability to save them, do you check their citizenship papers first? Do you verify treaty status before extending your hand?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species shifted uncomfortably. A representative from the Mistral species, aquatic beings who rarely spoke in council sessions, activated their platform. "If I may address the council? Humanity's actions, while unusual, were not unprecedented. More importantly, they were effective. The Harvester fleet has been neutralized. The Keon homeworld remains intact. Civilian casualties were minimal considering the circumstances." Vorn's throat sac inflated with irritation. "The effectiveness is not in question. The procedure is what matters. If every species acts independently based on emotional reactions, we descend into chaos." David reached into his jacket and withdrew a data pad. "I would like to submit evidence to the Council. This document is called the Book of Debts. It has been maintained by human diplomatic archives for 147 years. He activated the pad's projection. Holographic text appeared in the air above the chamber floor, sized so every delegate could read it clearly. The first entry glowed with special emphasis. Entry number 1, David read aloud. Quilon Merchant Captain Mira rendered life-saving assistance to human colony ship Hope's Journey. Date: Galactic Standard Calendar Year 2178. Details: Captain Mira used her own resources to rescue 8,000 humans facing imminent death. She asked for no payment. She sought no political favor. She simply helped because it was right. He looked around the chamber. Below that entry, written in every human language, are 4 words. Debt recorded. Debt honored. David scrolled through the document. Entry 17. The Mistral colony on Kepler provided emergency water purification technology to human settlers during a drought. We recorded it. Entry 41. The Brannock Mining Cooperative shared their safety protocols with human workers, saving countless lives. We recorded it. Entry 93. A single member of the Tellarian species, a teacher named Bryn, tutored human children in quantum mechanics free of charge. We recorded it. The holographic document continued scrolling, showing hundreds of entries. Each one detailed an act of kindness, large or small, shown to humanity by another species. Beside each entry, the same notation, debt recorded, either marked as unpaid or honored. Humanity keeps track, David said quietly. We remember everyone who helped us, every act of generosity, every moment of compassion. We teach these stories to our children. We celebrate them in our culture. And when the time comes, we repay them. A representative from the Brannock species stood. His insectoid form clicked with agitation. Ambassador Reed speaks truth. 3 years ago, human engineers arrived at our primary mining operation unannounced. They said they were repaying entry 41. They spent 6 months upgrading our equipment and training our workers. They refused payment. They said the debt was theirs to pay. Another voice, this time from a small species called the Nix. Humanity funded our entire education system reform. They said they owed us for shelter our ancestors provided to human explorers 2 generations ago. We had forgotten. They had not, more voices joined. Species after species stood to share stories of humanity's strange obsession with remembering kindness and repaying it, often decades after the original act. Vorn tried to regain control. These anecdotes are touching but irrelevant to the question of military action without authorization. David's expression hardened. Irrelevant? Chancellor, this is the entire point. You asked why we intervened in Keon space. The answer is simple. We owed them. Not in a legal sense. Not in a political sense. In a moral sense. In the sense that matters to humans above all else. He deactivated the datapad. Mira saved 8,000 of our people when she had every rational reason to let them die. She gave us mercy when we were helpless. Now her people faced extinction. And this council chose procedure over principle, so we chose principle over procedure. The chamber fell silent. Even Vorn seemed at a loss for words. David continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. You call us emotional. You say we let sentiment cloud our judgment. Perhaps you are right. But humanity's sentiment has built hospitals on 12 worlds. Our clouded judgment has fed 17 species during famines. Our emotional responses have educated, protected, and elevated dozens of civilizations across this galaxy. He gestured to the assembled delegates. How many of you remember the species that helped you rise to space travel? How many of you honor the sacrifices made by those who came before? You have forgotten. We have not. We cannot. It is not in our nature to forget kindness or abandon those who showed us mercy. A young delegate from a species David did not recognize activated their platform. Ambassador, does humanity also remember cruelty? Do you maintain records of those who harmed you? The question hung in the air like a blade. David met the young alien's eyes directly. Yes, we remember everything. The good and the bad. The kind and the cruel. Every favor received. Every betrayal suffered. We write it all down. He paused for emphasis. The difference is what we do with those memories. When we remember kindness, we repay it with interest. When we remember cruelty, we ensure it cannot happen again. The harvesters learned that lesson in Keon space. Their fleet is disabled, not destroyed. Their crews are alive, not slaughtered. We defend, but we do not murder. Vorn attempted one final argument. And what happens when humanity decides the council itself has been cruel? Will you turn your fleets against us? David smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Chancellor, humanity joined this council hoping to find a community built on justice and mutual support. If we ever conclude that this council has become an obstacle to those principles rather than a champion of them, we will not attack. We will simply leave, and we will take our friends with us. The threat was clear. Half the species in the chamber owed humanity debts, both recorded and unrecorded. If humans departed, they would not leave alone. The vote on sanctions began. Vorn called for punitive measures against humanity. The results appeared on the central display. 372 species voted against sanctions. 28 voted in favor. Vorn stared at the numbers in disbelief. This is unprecedented. No, Chancellor, David replied. This is inevitable. Humanity has spent 147 years building relationships based on honor and mutual respect. You spent today discovering what that actually means. He walked toward the exit but stopped at the chamber door. One final thought demanded voice. The Book of Debts remains open. We are still writing entries. I suggest every species in this chamber consider carefully what they want their entry to say. David left the council chamber behind. In the corridor he found Mira waiting. The elderly Quailon stood with the help of a support frame, her fur gray with age but her eyes bright with tears. Ambassador Reed, she said softly. I never expected anyone to remember. David knelt so they were at eye level. Captain Mira, humanity will remember you for as long as our species exists. Your entry in the Book of Debts is written in permanent ink. Your kindness saved 8,000 lives. Those lives created 200,000 more. You changed our history. How could we possibly forget? Mira touched his face with a trembling hand. Thank you. For my people. For everything. No, David said gently. Thank you. For showing us that mercy still exists in this galaxy. For proving that kindness is not weakness. For giving us someone worth becoming. They stood together in the corridor while delegates filed past, whispering about the species that remembered everything and forgot nothing. The species that repaid debts in blood and treasure with equal dedication. The species that had just reminded the galaxy what civilization truly meant. 3 months after the Battle of Quilon, Talth sat in a darkened room on a harvester civilian station, nursing his anger like a precious thing. They had stripped him of his rank, demoted him to civilian status, made him an example of failure. But they had not broken him. Around the table sat 6 others, all former military officers, all burning with the same humiliation. They had lost to humans. Soft, emotional, weak humans who should have died like insects beneath harvester guns. The shame would not fade. The rage would not diminish. The council protects them now, muttered Greth, a former captain who had lost her ship during the battle. The galaxy treats humanity like heroes, like saviors. They forget that we are the strong ones. We are the predators. Talth leaned forward. Then we remind them. Not officially. The harvester government has surrendered to political pressure, signed peace agreements, opened diplomatic channels with the humans. He spat the last word like poison. But we are not bound by our government's cowardice. What do you propose? Asked Vin, youngest of the group but no less committed to revenge. Humanity's strength is their sentimentality. They value all life, especially their own people. We strike at their colonies, their civilian populations. Show the galaxy that protecting humans brings only death. Force them to choose between humanity and their own survival. Greth pulled up a star map. Human colony world designated New Vancouver. Agricultural settlement. 20,000 humans. Light defensive capabilities. No military fleet within 2 weeks' travel. Perfect. Talth felt satisfaction warm his body. We hit them hard. We hit them fast. And we disappear before their military can respond. Other species will see that associating with humanity brings danger to their doorsteps. The alliance will crumble. The planning took 2 weeks. They gathered like-minded extremists, acquired ships through black market channels, and forged identities that could not be traced to the harvester government. 53 vessels in total, enough firepower to devastate an undefended colony. What Talth did not know was that humanity had been listening, had been watching, had prepared. Admiral Kate Patterson reviewed the intelligence reports in her office on Earth. The data was clear. Harvester extremists planned to attack New Vancouver within the week. The information came from multiple sources, some friendly aliens, some human operatives, some intercepted communications that the harvesters believed were secure. They think we're naive, Kate said to her assembled staff. They think our mercy means we're fools. Her intelligence officer, Commander Ryan Worth, highlighted several data points. Admiral, we've known about this plot for 6 weeks. We've traced the financing, identified the personnel, tracked their ship acquisitions. We could have arrested them at any point. But we didn't, Kate said. Because sometimes you need to let the enemy commit to their attack. You need to let them show their true intentions before you respond. She activated a tactical display showing New Vancouver's system. Defensive stations upgraded 3 weeks ago. Fleet elements positioned in nearby systems ready for rapid deployment. New Vancouver's population quietly evacuated to underground shelters under the guise of emergency preparedness drills. The colony appears vulnerable. It is not. Commander Worth smiled grimly. A trap, a lesson, Kate corrected. The Council thinks humanity is soft because we show mercy. The harvesters think we're weak because we value life. They're both about to learn the difference between mercy and weakness. She pulled up images of the wooden carving, the bird with outstretched wings that had become humanity's unofficial symbol. Mira showed us mercy when we needed it. We repaid that debt with blood at Keon. Now someone thinks they can threaten human civilians and will simply accept it. They're wrong. The meeting continued for 2 hours, refining every detail. When it ended, Kate walked to the window and looked out at Earth. Somewhere up there, extremists plotted murder. They would arrive at New Vancouver expecting easy targets. They would find something very different. Talth's ragtag fleet emerged from jump space at the edge of New Vancouver's system. Long-range sensors showed exactly what they expected. A peaceful agricultural world with minimal defenses, a few orbital stations, nothing serious. No military vessels. Begin approach, Talth ordered. Weapons free. I want that colony burning within the hour. His fleet accelerated inward. They maintained communication silence, running dark to avoid detection. Everything proceeded according to plan. 10 minutes from weapons range, space around them suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared as if materializing from nowhere, emerging from stealth fields that should not have existed. 73 vessels surrounded Talth's fleet in a perfect sphere. The same 73 ships that had fought at Quilon, repaired and upgraded. Admiral Patterson's face appeared on every harvester screen simultaneously. Her expression showed no anger, no hatred, just cold certainty. This is Admiral Patterson of the Human Defense Fleet. You are surrounded. Your ships are targeted. You have one opportunity to surrender peacefully. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You have 60 seconds to comply. Talth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How did they know? Greth's hands shook over her weapons console. It was a trap. They've been watching us the entire time. Then we fight, Talth snarled. If we're going to die, we die taking humans with us. All ships, attack pattern. His words cut off as electromagnetic pulses cascaded through his fleet. Every weapon system shut down simultaneously. Engines went offline. Life support switched to emergency backup. In less than 5 seconds, 53 harvester ships became helpless metal boxes drifting in space. Kate's voice continued, calm and measured. We disabled your weapons. We disabled your engines. We did not disable your life support. You are alive because we chose mercy. You attacked civilians because you chose cruelty. Do you understand the difference now? Human boarding craft attached to each harvester vessel. Marines in full combat armor secured the ships efficiently. Professionally. No harvester crew members were harmed during the boarding process. All were restrained and processed as prisoners. Talth found himself in the brig of the human flagship Remembrance, the same ship that had fought so fiercely at Keon. A young human guard stood watch outside his cell. The guard looked barely old enough to serve in military, yet carried himself with quiet competence. How long were you watching us? Talth asked. The guard considered the question. Since you started planning. We have people everywhere, monitoring everything. You thought you were being clever, using encrypted channels and hidden accounts, but humanity learned long ago that the best way to stop attacks is to know about them before they happen. You could have arrested us weeks ago. We could have, the guard agreed, but our commanders wanted you to commit fully, wanted you to show your intentions clearly, so when we caught you there would be no doubt about what you planned to do. Kate Patterson entered the brig area. The guard saluted and stepped aside. She studied Talth through the energy barrier of his cell. You made a mistake, she said simply. You confused mercy with weakness. At Keon we fought to protect the innocent. We disabled your ships instead of destroying them. We took prisoners instead of executing them. And you interpreted that as softness. Talth said nothing. What could he say? Humanity values life, Kate continued. All life. Even yours, even now. After you tried to murder 20,000 civilians. We could have destroyed your fleet. We could have executed every one of you as pirates and terrorists. Instead, you're alive. You'll be tried fairly. You'll be given legal representation. Because that's what civilized species do. She leaned closer to the barrier. But make no mistake, Commander. Our mercy has limits. We gave you peace after Keon. You answered with planned genocide. We will not give you another chance. You and your conspirators are being returned to Harvester space along with complete evidence of your crimes. Your own government will decide your fate. Talth's blood chilled. They'll execute us. Probably, Kate agreed. Your people are trying to rebuild their reputation. You represent everything they're trying to move past. They'll use you as examples. She straightened. That's not my concern. My concern is protecting human lives and preventing future attacks. You've accomplished something remarkable, Commander. You've shown the galaxy exactly what happens when someone mistakes our civilization for weakness. She turned to leave, then paused. We're not your enemies. We never were. You made us your enemies when you chose to target innocents. Humanity remembers every favor. We honor every kindness. But we also remember every attack, every threat, every attempt to harm our people, and our response echoes across worlds. Kate left the brig. Behind her, Talth sat in silence, finally understanding what he had failed to grasp during the Battle of Keon. Humanity's mercy was real. Their compassion was genuine, but neither of those things made them weak. They made humans dangerous in a completely different way. They made humans into protectors who would fight without hesitation, who would prepare without paranoia, and who would respond to cruelty with justice rather than revenge. 3 days later, 53 Harvester ships were delivered to Harvester space under human escort. Kate personally handed over the prisoners and evidence to Harvester authorities. The trial lasted 1 week. The sentences were carried out immediately afterward. The Harvester government issued formal apologies and increased their own internal security to prevent future extremist actions. The galaxy watched. The galaxy learned. Attacking humanity might not bring immediate destruction, but it would bring inevitable justice. Mercy and strength were not opposites in human philosophy. They were partners. And together, they created something the galaxy had not seen in generations. A species that could be both gentle and terrible, both compassionate and unrelenting, both forgiving and unforgetting. Humanity remembered every favor, and their vengeance, when finally provoked, echoed across worlds. 1 year after the Battle of Keon, the Galactic Historical Archive unveiled its newest exhibition wing. Species from 300 worlds attended the opening ceremony, curious about what they would find. The building itself was simple, constructed from materials donated by dozens of civilizations. But the contents promised to explain something that had puzzled the galaxy for months. What made humans different? The exhibition was titled, The Human Paradox, Memory, Mercy, and Justice. Dr. Rachel Abbott, the human historian who curated the collection, stood before the assembled crowd. She was 70 years old, gray-haired with the kind of face that showed a lifetime of smiling. But her eyes carried the sharpness of someone who understood the weight of history. Welcome, she said, her voice translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. This exhibition is not about glorifying humanity. It is about understanding us. Because if the events of this past year have taught us anything, it is that misunderstanding humanity can have serious consequences. She gestured to the first display. It showed Earth, humanity's homeworld, with markers indicating the locations of major conflicts throughout history. Humanity fought 2 global wars that killed millions. We developed weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We committed atrocities that shame us to this day. We are not perfect. We have never claimed to be perfect. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. This was not the story they expected. Rachel moved to the next display. But something happened during those dark times. Something that defines us. In the middle of our first global war, on one day, soldiers from opposing armies stopped fighting. They sang songs together. They shared food. They played football in the space between trenches. Then the next day, they went back to trying to kill each other. Images showed the Christmas truce of 1914, human soldiers from different nations standing together in temporary peace. We call this the Christmas truce. It lasted 1 day. One single day when humanity remembered that enemies are also people. The war continued for 4 more years. But that one day, we never forgot it. A Mistral delegate raised a tentacle. Dr. Abbott, how does this explain your species' behavior at Keon? I'm getting there, Rachel replied. You see, humanity has a strange relationship with memory. We remember our darkest moments because we fear becoming that evil again. We remember our brightest moments because we aspire to be that good again. And we remember every kindness shown to us because we understand how rare kindness truly is. She led the group to a central display. There, behind protective glass, sat a simple wooden carving, a bird with outstretched wings, worn smooth from handling, ancient by galactic standards. This carving is 148 years old. It was given to humans by a Quilon merchant captain named Mira. She saved 8,000 human lives when she had no obligation to do so. This simple piece of wood has traveled billions of kilometers. It has been to the council chambers. It has been into battle. It has been held by dying soldiers and celebrated leaders, and it will remain in this archive for as long as humanity exists. Rachel's voice softened. Because this is not just a carving. This is proof that kindness matters. That one person's choice to help strangers can change the course of history. Mira did not save humanity because we were powerful or wealthy or useful. She saved us because we needed saving. That is the kind of thing humans never ever forget. The exhibition continued through multiple rooms. One displayed the Book of Debts, open to show hundreds of entries. Each entry detailed an act of kindness, a moment of mercy, a gesture of friendship. Beside many entries were holographic images showing how humans had repaid those debts. Hospitals built. Technologies shared. Lives saved. Another room showed the darker side. Records of attacks against humanity. Lists of betrayals and cruelties. But beside each entry was not a revenge tale, but a justice record. Legal proceedings. Fair trials. Proportionate responses. Humanity remembered cruelty, but they did not answer it with equal cruelty. They answered it with law and order. The final room held the most powerful display. Split down the middle, one side showed images of humans helping, teaching, healing, building. The other side showed images of human warships, weapons, soldiers in combat. The juxtaposition was deliberate and striking. High Chancellor Vorn, who had reluctantly attended the opening, stared at the display. Two faces of humanity, he muttered. No, Rachel corrected gently. One face with two expressions. We are not split personalities. We are a species that understands that sometimes you help with medicine, and sometimes you help with shields. Sometimes you build schools, and sometimes you build defenses. Knowing when to use which approach is what makes us human. A young alien approached from a species Rachel did not recognize. Dr. Abbott, my government is considering an alliance with humanity. But they fear you. They fear your memory. They fear that if we make a mistake, if we offend you somehow, you will remember forever and seek revenge. Rachel knelt to be at eye level with the young being. Then tell your government 3 things. First, we do remember forever. Second, we distinguish between honest mistakes and deliberate cruelty. And third, if they treat us with respect and honesty, we will be the most loyal friends they could ever hope to have. She stood and addressed the entire crowd. Humanity is not mysterious. We are not complicated. We value loyalty, honesty, compassion, and justice. Show us kindness, we repay it tenfold. Show us cruelty, we respond with appropriate justice. Keep your word, we keep ours. Break your word, we remember but give you chances to do better. It is that simple. Across the galaxy, in a small house on the Keon homeworld, Mira sat in her garden. She was 94 years old now, her body failing despite advanced medical care that humans had provided free of charge. Her family surrounded her, 3 generations alive because humanity had defended their world. A communication device chimed. Kate Patterson's face appeared, calling from Earth. Captain Mira, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Admiral Patterson, Mira said warmly. You never disturb. You honor me with your attention. I wanted to tell you something, Kate said. The archive exhibition opened today. Your carving is the centerpiece. Billions of beings will visit over the coming years. They will all learn your name. They will all learn what you did. You will be remembered, Captain. For as long as humanity exists, you will be remembered. Tears formed in Mira's eyes. I only did what anyone should do. I saw people who needed help, and I helped them. I know, Kate replied. That is exactly why you deserve to be remembered. Because you showed us that mercy is not weakness, that kindness is not foolishness, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply choose to care about someone you have no obligation to care about. They spoke for an hour about small things, family, weather, gardens, the kind of conversation that friends have when they know time is precious. When it ended, Mira sat quietly in her garden, surrounded by flowers that human botanists had helped her cultivate. 2 weeks later, Mira passed away peacefully in her sleep. Her funeral was attended by 5,000 people, humans, Quilon, and representatives from dozens of other species. Kate Patterson delivered the eulogy, speaking about how one merchant captain's choice had changed galactic history. Mira did not set out to be a hero, Kate said. She did not want fame or glory. She simply saw people dying and refused to let them die when she had the power to save them. That single choice, made 148 years ago, created 200,000 human lives. It created alliances between species. It showed the galaxy that mercy still exists, and it reminded humanity why we fight to protect the innocent. Kate placed the wooden carving on Mira's memorial stone. This carving traveled the stars with us. It went into battle. It witnessed history. But it belongs here now, with the person who made it meaningful. Captain Mira, humanity thanks you. We honor you. And we promise you that your legacy will live forever in our actions and our memories. In the Galactic Council chambers, High Chancellor Vorn's replacement, a coalition representative named Sala, formally proposed new protocols for mutual defense and alliance building. The protocols were based largely on human philosophy. Remember kindness, repay loyalty, punish cruelty with justice rather than revenge, and give people chances to choose who they want to be. The vote was unanimous in favor. On Earth, in a small apartment overlooking the ocean, Kate Patterson sat with her granddaughter. The child was 7 years old, curious about everything. She picked up a photograph from Kate's desk. It showed a young Quilon merchant captain standing beside human crew members, all of them smiling. "Grandma, who is this?" Kate took the photo gently. "That is Captain Mira. She saved 8,000 humans when I was not even born yet. She did it because it was right, not because anyone would remember or reward her. But we remember her anyway," the child said. "Yes, we remember her anyway, because that is what humans do. We remember the people who showed us kindness. We honor the people who helped us when we were weak, and we make sure that their goodness creates more goodness in the galaxy." The child thought about this seriously. "Is that why you fight, Grandma? To remember Captain Mira?" Kate smiled. "I fight to protect people who are like Captain Mira, the kind and the brave, the compassionate and the generous. I fight so that goodness does not lose to cruelty. I fight so that the Miras of the galaxy can live without fear." She pulled her granddaughter close. "And someday, when you are grown, you will make your own choice. You will decide what kind of person you want to be. You will decide what you want people to remember about you. And whatever you choose, humanity will remember it. Because that is what we do. We remember everything. The good and the bad, the kind and the cruel, and we let those memories guide us to be better than we were yesterday." Outside the window, Earth turned slowly in space. Above it, human ships patrolled peacefully, protecting trade routes and defending allies. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, species told stories about humanity. Some spoke of their mercy. Some spoke of their justice. All of them agreed on one fundamental truth. Humanity remembered every favor, and their vengeance echoed across worlds. But more importantly, humanity remembered what mattered. They remembered that civilization was built on trust, that strength without compassion was tyranny, and that the greatest power in the galaxy was not weapons or wealth, but the simple choice to care about others even when you gained nothing from it. The book of debts remained open. Humanity continued writing entries, and the galaxy slowly learned to write its own.